The first things that are coming down is that House versus NCAA conferences, especially the Big 12, the first one, are moving towards signing the settlement, although the A5 is not happy, and we'll see how that goes. But, there's pushback from those other schools, but it looks like the settlement's on its way.
I guess we're starting with the settlement.
We'll start with this.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start with the settlement. Not Jaden Rashada, but
that's something that was to be expected. We've been talking about this at great length ever since this started percolating a few days ago, and the signs were all pointing to basically everybody at the power conference level coming to an agreement, being made to sound like there wasn't going to be, even though there was some pushback here and there wasn't going to be anything really stopping this from getting tied up and people agreeing to move forward with it. So, the Big 12 is the first to go ahead and vote for the settlement, and now we await the others to follow suit. And it seems, again, based on all the tea leaves, that's going to be the case. So it looks like that's going to get done here in the next few days, and then we'll see with some of the smaller conferences how that goes. Obviously, after the conversation yesterday about the Big East and how they were feeling about things, there was some question marks there. But that's good news, I guess. Again, this whole settlement thing, the way it's presented, it's not really ending anything. It's ending like some level of litigation temporarily, but it's not going to solve a bunch of the problems. So. The Big 12's gone ahead and gotten it done. I do think it's good in the long run to wrap this up and then move forward to whatever the next thing is. So check one box, and now we'll see how quickly the other boxes get checked. But, the Big 12's gone ahead and gone forward with their votes. So they're on board, and they are all prepared now to start getting ready to deliver some of that back pay and then go from there. So that's where we are with that, and it seems like a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Midwinter, sports attorney at law, and Garrett, I just sent you a text. He has a wave of tweets. He will be on the show tomorrow at 3:30 to kind of go through this with us and explain it. But if and when the House case settles, it will result in a wave of legal issues. And here are some of the bigger ones. One, the NCAA and the conferences versus collectives, because the NCAA and the P4 are hoping the House settlement eliminates collectives, and they're going to try and crack down on pay for play, but that is going to be a fight. And then he goes into that. Title IX is going to be an issue, so there could be things that arise from the scenarios out of that. Schools versus athletes in the compensation model, and objections to the House settlement, which will be some of those other conferences. Like he said, all future D1 athletes will be opted in under these things. And so if they're not, if they don't think that they're fair, they'll able to make annual objections to them. Employment, state legislation. So that's just 7 things that could come out of this. And this is just closing one door that's going to lead to others. Like they've walked through one part of the maze, and now they have the rest of the maze to go. It's not going to be easy or simple. And so these are the issues that they have to work through, but they're trying to get this settlement done so that they can get to those and start those other legal fights. So I don't know how that's going to work out. Overall, none of us do, but we do know that the non-A5 conferences are upset about it. Jared Mosley, who was just on the show, athletic director at North Texas, said, nothing to see here, folks, just a renegotiated lopsided P4 CFP deal because of your value, yet you get the NCAA and all the other conferences to pick up the settlement they had little to do with and no voice in how the settlement would work. Hashtag P4 math. And good for Jared for saying that, and I'm sure he's not the only one, because this was all on the P4. The A4, whatever you want to call them, this is all about those schools. This is 90% of the athletes, and they got most of the bill picked up by someone else.
Yeah, well, you had a follow-up tweet to further explain. Somebody pointed out that the Big 12 is paying $132 million. The American Athletic Conference is paying $36 million. And that, they've been able to go and get their own money over time. It's not as though they're not getting anything, and yet here they are having to pay a tab for a dinner they didn't eat. They've been chomping down as well. But I understand why, there is the discrepancy over, who owes what and why they owe that and things like that. And, you'll get into the replies of any tweet like Jared's, and you'll see fans of North Texas, for example, arguing with fans of Oklahoma State on why it's unfair one way or the other. But when he was, I guess, responded to, and somebody pointed out that the Big 12 made a lot more money than the American, or will have to pay, I should say, a lot more money than the American. He did say, no victims here. Student athletes deserve a portion of revenues. You just can't take 90%-ish of new CFP money, ignore other media rights, and then ask everyone else to cover 60% of the liabilities in a settlement. Bad optics and math any way you slice it. So, yeah, Jared Mosley is letting his voice be known just like he did when we were on this show. And I don't know that it's that's surprising. I don't know all the ins and outs either of the entire argument and why it's exactly unfair. I mean, I've tried to follow along with it, but then I fall down rabbit holes and it gets into he said type of a stuff. So I know obviously schools like North Texas aren't totally happy about it. I also know they're not paying the bulk of the money, but that's how it's kind of being portrayed in some ways, as though somehow they're paying 60% of it by themselves and not the power conferences. As it pointed out, the Big 12 schools are still paying way more. They also bring in way more. So I don't know, man. Just get it settled and move on to the next thing. I'm glad the Big 12 has figured out what their path will be, which is to go ahead and knock this vote out, which they've done, and now move on. And now we await the other leagues as well that are involved, and we'll go from there. But again, another story where it's great to be a lawyer and have billable hours, because there's just so much litigation and so much lawyer talk going on in college sports these days. And here's just another example of that.
Yep. All right, now to the